Welcome back to Serenity Cafe Academy for Section 3 of Don Carter's Thawing Toxic Relationships course. We refer to this section as Applying First Aid because this is where we focus directly on putting the healing treatments in place. You have heard us repeatedly mention the drama triangle throughout this course, and with good reason. The drama triangle is at the very core of all toxic relationships. For example, it is at the core of all the dysfunctional dynamics we reviewed in the previous section, such as the enabling trap, the chemistry of drama, the punishment and forgiveness cycle, and the distance and pursuit dynamic, just to name a few.
There are three roles that these relationship mind games all have in common: a victim, a rescuer, and a persecutor. The drama triangle is also known as the victim trap because all three roles operate from a victim mentality. The persecutor feels like a victim because nobody seems to appreciate their good intentions. In their opinion, they're just trying to get other people to act, think, and believe correctly. The rescuer feels like a victim because no one seems to care about all they do and all they sacrifice for others. In their opinion, the victim needs them to fix or control the problem. And the victim feels victimized because they are in the down position where that's the role assigned to them. They learn to use powerlessness to gain power.
They all live in the victimhood, what Don refers to as simply the hood, where there are frequent drive-by shame attacks and gang fights at the dinner table, also known as the cycling of abandonment, shame, and contempt. In order to begin applying first aid, we need to get off the battlefield. In other words, we must first move out of the victimhood to minimize the chances of further injury.
So, if not the victim mentality, then what? To answer this question, we need to switch gears completely. Applying first aid to your relationship requires a look at the new mentality. A healthy neighborhood must be co-created in order to apply the proper treatment and initiate a healing process. The empowerment dynamic, also known by the acronym TED, is the best alternative to the drama triangle.
The empowerment dynamic also uses a triangle on which to build its framework. However, as you can see here, the triangle has been flipped upside right, in the opposite direction of the drama triangle. The drama triangle points down because the victim occupies the down position. The opposite of a victim is a creator. The creator takes responsibility for creating their life, including all the good, the bad, and the ugly by the decisions they make. This accountability empowers the creator. Thus, they occupy the up position on the empowerment triangle. The alternative to a rescuer is a coach. There are no rescuers, only support people, such as sponsors, counselors, and others whose specialties make them an expert in their area. In the empowerment mentality, there is no such thing as a persecutor. There are only challengers that provide opportunities for growth.
In order to replace the drama triangle with the empowerment dynamic, the first thing we need to talk about is the idea of focus. If I ask you not to think of a pink triangle, what pops into your mind? That's right, a pink triangle. This is because the mind has to do what you tell it not to do in order to know what not to do. So the idea that we cannot control what the mind does is partly true, but as we shall see, only partly true. People often feel discouraged and beat themselves up because they cannot seem to stop thinking depressing thoughts, or they cannot seem to stop worrying about various things that could go wrong. No matter how hard they try, they just cannot stop these depressing and anxiety-provoking thoughts. They cannot seem to shake limiting beliefs that keep them down, such as I'm unworthy or not good enough.
The problem is focus. What we are thinking about at any given moment is what we are focusing on with our mind's eye and ears. So even when we are trying not to think certain thoughts, we are still focusing on those thoughts. As we saw in the video on subconscious processing, the supercomputer of our subconscious mind can sort through millions of bits of data at once, but consciously we can only process about 7 bits of data at a time.
Now, remember earlier I mentioned that it's only partly true that we cannot control what our mind does. While we cannot simply not think certain thoughts, what we can do is change our focus away from the victim mentality of the drama triangle, where we have trained ourselves to focus on problems. Alternatively, turning toward the empowerment dynamic, we can train ourselves to focus on challenges as opportunities for growth. In other words, we simply move our focus off of getting away from the things we don't want, problems, and toward how to get what we do want, opportunities, and growth.
Looking at the empowerment dynamic, you might begin to see how focusing on what we want, rather than what we don't want, will take a strong commitment by both partners to co-create a new relationship. Let's take a closer look at the problem of focus. Previously, we discovered that when we try to not focus on something, we are in fact focusing on it. Your brain must do what you tell it not to do, in order to know what not to do.
The attention focus model gives us a visual way of exploring why we must be more intentional where we direct our focus. As the model here indicates, what we focus on leads us to an inner state consistent with that focus. For example, if we focus on certain thoughts, we are going to create an inner experience consistent with those thoughts. As neuroscientist Joe Dispenza says, we feel the way we think, then we think the way we feel, then we feel the way we think, and so on. Since our instincts lead us to avoid pain and pursue pleasure, our inner state will motivate us to act out behaviors that are designed to get more of it, if it's pleasurable. If not, either get rid of it, also known as fight mode, or get away from it, flight mode.
Next, these behaviors increase our focus on the object of our attention, which increases the experience of our inner state, which increases the intensity of our efforts to get more of it, get away from it, or get rid of that inner state, which increases our focus on the object of our attention, and so on. So let's see how the model applies to the victim mentality. The first thing we notice when we apply the attention-focused model to the drama triangle is that our focus starts in the down position because a victim is problem-focused. Next, we see that depression, anxiety, or some other funky inner state is the result of that focus.
That funky inner experience leads to behaviors that are designed to get away from or get rid of that inner state. Getting away from behaviors are usually attempted through escapism, such as watching too much television, engaging in an addiction, working too much, rescuing a problem person, etc. Trying to escape does nothing to change the situation because the inner state is always there waiting and usually strengthened when the distraction runs its course. In fact, the escapism may create a whole new set of problems for the victim, ensuring they never run out of problems upon which to focus.
Getting rid of behaviors usually involve anger mode and fighting with the perceived cause of our inner state. This also strengthens the original focus and creates more problems than it solves. Now, let's apply the attention-focused model to the empowerment dynamic. Here we see our new focus is on a desired outcome, something we really want. Wayne Dyer is fond of saying, in order to create passion, a desired outcome must meet 4 criteria. You must really, 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 really want your outcome.
Dyer goes on to say, 3 won't do it. Your focus of attention must meet all 4 criteria when visualized. Your desired outcome must be lip-smacking good. An inner experience of passion motivates us to engage in behaviors designed to get more of our desired outcome. This strengthens our focus on what we want, which strengthens our passion because we think the way we feel, and we feel the way we think, and so on. Before we look closer at the roles in the alternative creator mentality, let's do a quick summary of the roles in the drama triangle.
First of all, let's keep in mind that all players in the drama triangle take a victim perspective. They all feel unappreciated and not okay on the inside, they all have a problem focus, and they all experience a funky inner state. This leads them to engage in playing the victim, persecutor, or rescuer to get away from or get rid of that inner state. Driven primarily by a fear of abandonment, the victim sees others as persecutors or rescuers. In either case, the victim must try to keep those others happy. Driven primarily by contempt, the persecutor sees others as either victims or rescuers. It is up to the persecutor to set them straight. Driven primarily by shame, the rescuer sees others as either persecutors or victims. The rescuer takes responsibility for others. If they cannot fix things, everything somehow becomes the rescuer's fault.
Being triggered into the victim mentality only makes things worse every time we cycle through another round of abandonment, shame, and contempt. Remember Hebb's first law of neuroplasticity: neurons that fire together, wire together. Let's also keep in mind a person does not need to be in close relationships with people to act out their emotional wounds. Persecutors and rescuers can also be an institutional, financial, medical, or other problem focus. For example, an institutional persecutor may be a collection agency who keeps calling and threatening legal action, while the institutional rescuer, a loan officer at the bank, approves another consolidation loan, effectively bailing out the victim.
Now, let's take another quick look at the roles in the opportunity-focused mentality of the empowerment dynamic. In the empowerment triangle, the opposite of a victim is a creator. From the opposition, the creator takes responsibility for themselves and for creating the life they want. There are no such things as problems or persecutors. When things go wrong or someone attempts a drive-by shame attack, the creator sees it as an opportunity to learn a new way to cope. They see difficulties as challenges, challenging them to grow in ways that will move them closer to their life goals or help them cope with life's challenges gracefully.
The creator does not need a rescuer, but they do know when to reach out and call on a coach or a mentor. The coach will be available on the sidelines, but unlike the rescuer, they will never come onto the field and try to play the game for the creator. The victim mentality is for those triggered into survival mode. They feel not okay on the inside and see others as either better or worse than them. As Don frequently points out, fight-or-flight survival mode only knows the language of reactivity. Creators live in growth mode, which IFS therapists refer to as self-leadership. They feel okay on the inside and see others as okay too, even if they are living in survival mode. This takes healing and maturity. Please know when to reach out to a coach, counselor, or mentor, especially if you feel stuck and unable to break out of the victimhood. Thanks for watching.